Your resilience levels are directly affected by the quality of your significant relationships. Those significant relationships affect your mental health, your well-being on a day-to-day basis. They're directly impactful in terms of those 6 basic psychological needs, particularly love, belonging, and being understood. And when we don't give attention and focus, and when we're not proactive about looking after and nurturing those relationships, it can leave us, again, in a very dark place. The fact of the matter is that the quality of happiness in life will be directly proportionate to the quality of your relationships. And yet often, for many of us, our relationships we shove to the periphery. They're kind of they get the dregs of our day and the dregs of our focus and attention. We don't tend to set goals related to our relationships. We set goals regarding to our financial progress or our careers. And yet those relationships are integral to maintaining a resilient, healthy, emotionally well perspective on life. Keeping the different aspects of life in balance is a really tricky thing. I like the metaphor of life as being like a wheel. And the strength of a wheel, of course, is not defined by the strength of the rim, but by the strength of the individual spokes. And if any of those spokes are compromised or weakened, then the wheel implodes and our lives can come off track when we don't give attention to the different spokes. So it's worth recognizing the key different spokes that are essential to living a balanced life. Our career is one of those, our finances, but also our family life, our marriage or our significant relationship, our mental health, our physical health, that's a key spoke, our social life, and also our personal development or spiritual life. Now, when we give excess attention to a few of these spokes, usually it will be to the detriment of other spokes. And that's the tricky thing about maintaining balance, to recognize that all of those aspects of your life need attention, need regular attention, and need a proactive approach in order to keep that wheel turning in a healthy way. So that raises the question then, what are the essentials of maintaining healthy relationships at home and at work? Well, first of all, it's recognizing that we're all feeling beings. As I've said in a previous session, all behavior is communication. We live out of our feelings. And if we recognize that, then we can learn to hear from the emotions that are being expressed around us, the behaviors that are being expressed around us by the people that we live with. We can learn to hear what's going on with them. And that requires some active listening, recognizing that we not only need to listen to allow other people to exercise their chin, to express their emotions, but we need to have the courage ourselves to express our own feelings rather than leaving those feelings brushed under the rug or burying them somewhere deep down inside. When we bury those emotions, it only ever delays an inevitable dysfunction further down the line. So managing your own chip, expressing those emotions and listening for the emotions of others is essential. The other thing that's essential in terms of maintaining healthy relationships is to recognize what your love language is. Now, that might be a new idea to you, but I recommend that you look it up online. There are 5 love languages. And what this theory suggests is that actually we each give and receive love in slightly different ways. And there are 5 love languages. 1 is words of affirmation. 2nd, acts of service. 3rd, quality time. 4th, receiving gifts. And 5th, physical touch. Now, the key thing here is to recognize that the way you receive love might not be the way that your partner receives love. And you're giving love in the way that you would like to get it, and they're giving it to you in the way that they would like to get it, but neither of you are actually receiving love that's intended because you're not cognizant or understanding your different love languages. Understanding how each other give and receive love is essential to staying in sync with each other. Building resilience into our relationships means becoming comfortable with dealing with conflict in our relationships. And integral to that is, first of all, recognizing that conflict is normal. It's understandable, it's acceptable, it's okay for relationships to experience conflict. That doesn't need to mean the end of the road. That doesn't mean we panic and it's not working. Conflict is normal. The second thing is to recognize that we deal with conflict in different ways. There are it's been suggested 3 main ways that people deal with conflict. Some people are like hedgehogs. They get prickly, they get defensive, they withdraw, they mutter sarcastic comments under their breath. Some people address conflict more like a rhino. They're confrontational, they charge at it, they're quite aggressive in their behavior, and they confront the situation. Some people are more like ostriches. They hate conflict. It causes extreme anxiety for them, and so they bury their heads in the sand and they try and pretend it's not happening and they don't address it. Now, there are problems with each of those conflict styles, especially if you're dealing with somebody whose conflict style is particularly different to yours. If you're approaching the conflict as a rhino, you're likely to be making the other person feel afraid, maybe feel defensive, maybe feel anxious. That's not necessarily likely to lead to a positive resolution. If you're dealing with the conflict as a hedgehog, then that withdrawal you need to recognize may make the other person feel frustrated and feel distant and feel like you're not addressing the issue. Recognizing how you approach conflict and recognizing that sometimes we need to take time away before we address the issue and calm down so that we're not letting our chimps drive our behavior is essential. Let me leave you with this thought. In a conflict situation, you have 2 people often, and imagine like a tug of war, they're tugging on a rope. And the tension exists as long as both people are tugging on the rope. And the harder you tug and the harder you pull, the harder the other person pulls and resists back on that. And there's a very simple way to break that tension, and that is to drop the rope. If one person drops the rope, the tension, the other person cannot keep pulling on it. That's difficult to do. That's difficult to do in the heat of a moment. But try to learn to drop the rope, or try to learn to drop it a little bit quicker, so that the tension, instead of exacerbating, instead of the situation escalating, there's a break and there's the opportunity for that rational brain to kick in and to process and work through the situation. Fundamentally, don't ignore your relationships. Your relationships are the most important achievement of your life. Many years from now, when you're lying on your deathbed, you won't be asking for someone to bring you a printout of your bank balance, or asking them to bring you your framed certificate of your degree, or asking them to bring you your employee of the month certificate or your designer collection of shoes. You will be asking for the people you love. When we give time and attention and priority to those people we love, we are invariably in a far more resilient state to cope with life, to live life well, to win at life.